that's why it's really important to have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this degen?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about impermanent loss.
But really, at the end of the day, it's just the matter of a macro market. It's just what happens.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, so where you can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, crypto degenerates, ducks and squirrels, welcome to this special, fantastic, awesome episode. I actually can't see the title, so I don't know which number it is, but it is this current number of the Degen Roundtable's flagship Sunday show. My name is Will Stevenson. I'm a TV tower iron worker guy. I travel the United States building towers and doing all that sort of metal stuff. And in my free time, I like to talk cryptocurrency to degenerates such as yourself, and also these fine panelists and producers and folks we have on the Degen Roundtable team. Joining me today, I have Mr. Agent J, the Degen Roundtable's great value technical analyst, and I believe later on tonight we're also going to get Mr. Zenith at some point, probably about 30 minutes in or so like that. Zenith is our legal and government analyst for the Degen Roundtable, but we'll introduce him when he gets here. Jay, what's going on, broski? What's new and exciting with you? How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. A long time no see. It's been about a bit over 12 hours since I last saw you, sir.
Yeah, bro.
It feels like quite a long time since we've been back on YouTube. But I know that the team was over at the Pulse 369 conference for the majority of last week. So I'm pretty sure you all were kissing babies, shaking hands, and networking with fantastic people over there, especially with the Pulse Chain community. So kudos to you. I saw some of the behind the scenes and some of the streams that you did, the ones in particular with Charlie and Miguel. So that was very good. But you know, we've been in the Telegram streaming every single day, so the Telegram is never void of content. And aside from that, just enjoying the chaos that's occurring in the market right now, brother, because my goodness, it seems like the expectations, it's funny because in the Richard Hart community, one of the things that's pretty parroted across the entire ecosystem is no expectation of profit from the work of others, right? And I think the no expectation thing should be applied across more than just securities or would-be securities. I think not having expectations that the 4-year cycle is going to play out exactly how you wish it's going to play out should also be applied, because let me tell you, Q1 of post-halving year certainly not performing to the degree that most other Q1s of the post-halving year in prior cycles have performed, and a lot of people are down in the dumps, and a lot of people are thinking, is it over? And we'll attempt to answer that question like we always do on the charts. But in my personal opinion, I think the bull market is still fairly intact, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to the TA part. But other than that, man, working on the TA, providing value for the Telegram community, playing D&D with you and the rest of the crew, and working on my business as always. So aside from that, not much change, man. I'm a very routinized person, so my day starts at the exact same time every single morning and ends at the same exact time every single evening. Rinse and repeat into infinity and beyond. So how about you, brother? How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Before I get into how I'm doing, I got to give you your flowers. So Agent J has mentioned that like we're streaming every day in the Telegram. What he means to say, is that he is the one streaming every single day in the Telegram. Agent Jay's out there putting out all this fucking fantastic technical analysis and market updates and all sorts of crazy cool stuff in the Telegram. You do it every single day, like what, 7:30, 7:45 a.m., something like that, bro. Like over here in so you're in Arizona, so it's Pacific time for you right now, right?
Mountain time, sir.
Mountain time. Okay, mountain time. But they don't change for daylight savings time. So
No, sir.
for
the rest
part
of
of the year,
world,
it's
the rest of the world changes, but in Arizona and everywhere else where it's MST, we stay the same. And it's not just me, man. Tracker jumps in there every once in a while. Dace is usually my partner in crime because he's also up at the ass crack of dawn like I am. Like literally, me and Dace go to the gym at like the same time in the morning. We come back, I hop on stream, and he's usually on stream with me as well. And then the rest of the team makes it when they can. And so it's not just me, man. Like it's a team effort. I couldn't do this without the rest of the, without the rest of the team providing value and providing insight. And then obviously the community is I'm very surprised at just exactly how much of a turnout we get at that early in the morning. But the Telegram community shows up at that early in the morning, so I was actually surprised. We get a bigger turnout in the AM more so than we get when I used to stream like closer to the late afternoon. So that's actually pretty surprising, to be honest.
That's pretty interesting. I know that I'm usually sleeping today. I think I was driving today at that point in time. But yeah, that's freaking nuts, man. It's so good to see like so many folks and are just absorbing all of this excellent information and forging bonds and getting to learn all the stuff that you talk about in there. So that is excellent. And I also want to give a shout out, by the way, to Mrs. Producer behind the scenes, but I can't talk today. Mrs. Producer behind the scenes doing all the camera switching, coming up with this thumbnail for us at the last minute, making sure to keep all you guys all corralled and well regulated in the chats and everything. So shout out to Mrs. Producer, Mrs. McGettit. She is the one that runs the logistics for the show, and we appreciate it very much. To your question though of like how I'm doing, man, life is good. It was super fun playing that Dungeons and Degens game with you guys yesterday. This is my first D&D campaign, so I am completely brand new. We've done one proper session. We did 1 0 session so far. So for the folks at home that don't know what Dungeons and Dragons is, it's basically like storytelling, but we make up our own characters, and then one person is in charge of coming up with the story to bring all of us through, and we like roll dice and like do a whole bunch of like random number generators to determine how effective we are at the things that we want to do inside the story. So like if there's a huge pond and we want to jump over it, we got to roll for our agility checks to see if our bodies are strong enough to jump over the creek and stuff. So it was just super fun and super cool. And I think we did that Telegram chat for like 3 hours last night doing that that part of the campaign. So that was fucking awesome, man. I greatly enjoyed that. And then the other cool thing that happened for me recently is I just got my fucking Hex sword in the mail. So for those of you guys that haven't seen this, I ordered a sword from the Hex sword guy on Twitter, and holy shit, there's a fucking lots of people in front of me stopping while I'm holding up swords and stuff. Anyways, so I got this really cool sword from homie in the mail. So it's a fucking cutlass. It's real. It'll chop things up and do all sorts of cool things. So I am super happy and pleased about that. And so life is just fucking great. I'm just, spent the last week meeting people, traveling around. I've put probably 5,000 miles on my truck in the last 3 weeks. So it's been great going from Texas up to Montana to Washington down to Oregon to Las Vegas, back to Texas, now back to Las Vegas. Then in the near future, I'm going over to New Orleans. So shout out to all my Louisiana baby dolls over there. Stoked to see all you guys in the near future. You know who you are. And also my Las Vegas bros that know who I'm coming.
Your day-to-day is certainly not boring, my friend. Let me tell you that much.
Yeah. I tell you what, this truck seat is starting to be shaped like me. So I spent a lot of time sitting in this damn bench seat. But yeah, man, life is good. I'm enjoying every second of it. I'm glad that I've got another tower gig going on. Like we haven't had a proper tower job for, I don't know, probably about 2 months now. So I'm going to do a little we're going to change out all of the wires on a tower up in the southern end of Utah, and then we're gonna go straight now to tower that's like crooked down in New Orleans. So it's pretty fun. It's good to be back up in the sky again. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to probably stream on Wednesday with you guys because now that I'm on Pacific Coast time, the stream starts at 5 p.m. So I don't know if I'll be off the tower by then for the Whiskey Wednesday stuff, but I'll try and hop in later on in the day once we're all settled down and everything.
Not a big deal.
Life
man.
is
You
good.
Hop in when you can. Hop in when you can,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe I'll be on the ground. Maybe I'll be up in the air and I'll just fucking throw on the camera. I know I've done that a time or two before.
Yeah, those are fun.
There's been some interesting times, but enough about me, enough about you, enough about us. Let's fucking go ahead and Mrs. Producer, let's do the chat motherfucking shout out segment. So it's time to welcome all the folks that are over here chit-chatting with us and having a good time talking to us while we talk to you. It's time for some chat fucking shout outs, baby. Mrs. Producer, if you would be so kind. Our first chat shout out for the day, we've got Moonpilled Rational Optics, Raise a Glass Degens. Happy St. Patty's Day. Happy St. Patty's Day to you too, Mr. Moonpilled Rational Optics. I'm not going to be drinking booze, but I do have coffee and I've got sparkly waters over here, so that's what I'm
I hope
drinking.
you're not drinking booze.
Good to see you though. Yeah, not on camera anyways. So we like to live life on the edge sometimes. As a very not wise man once told me, he's like, if I don't practice drinking and driving, how will I know I'll be good at it when the need arises? And it's like, oh Jesus, bro, you're fucking nuts, man. But it's good to see you, Moonpilled Rational Optics. Welcome to the stream. Moonpill's a good IRL friend of mine. He's a super cool cat. Y'all should with him, and if you get close enough, go meet him and hang out and have some beers and things. I know I did, and it was an excellent time. Let's see what we got next, though, for the chat shout-outs, Mrs. Producer. And by the way, Agent J, I don't know when we're running out, so just, like, give me a signal or something. But next up for the chat shout-outs, we've got Chad Donnerschwanz. Hello only to the fellow-based crypto bros. Hello to you too, Mr. Chad Donnerschwanz, everyone's favorite muscly Pepe on the moon. Good to see you, broski. A DGen community member extraordinaire right there. We love to see you, bro. Next up for the chat shoutouts, we've got Wonderwolf or Wunderwolf. Early birds getting the worm. Yes, in reference to all those fantastic TA streams that Agent J does. Unless Wunderwolf it might be early in the world where you're at right now, bro. I don't exactly remember where you're located, but hey, if it's morning for you, good morning, broski. The early bird does get the worm. Yep, and the worm that sleeps in gets to live another day. So remember that. Just know your know your place in the world.
Yeah.
All right. What do we got next for chat shoutouts? Mr. Angry Twinkie, sun's out, guns out, baby. You're goddamn right, Twinksters. What's up, broski? Yep, we got the sleeveless shirts going on. I know that when we were doing D&D yesterday, I know that Dace was also rocking the sleeveless tee. So it's fucking sun's out, guns out. You're absolutely right, Mr. Angry Twinkie. It's good to see you, broski. Welcome to the stream. Glad we could have you in. I saw that you and Boogie had posted up a link earlier. Let's see. Next up, we've got Frank White. Bang, bang, Sunday gang. You're absolutely right, Frank White. Shout out to you. Good to see you, broski. It's always nice to have the folks from the Function Island over here hanging out with us, having fun as well. Good to see you, Frank. Oh, and by the way, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, Frank White is the gentleman that is like spearheading the awareness for oh shoot, what are they called, the Bored Apes on Pulse Chain. There was a gentleman that I met over at the Pulse Chain conference who was like an actual Bored Apes like Ethereum member dude, and he is telling all of them, him and Frank White, they're like, you know, I don't know if they're like peas in a pod, but they're both doing like the same thing. Frank White is I think he was shouting out to the folks to like, make sure you guys are buying these Bored Apes on Pulse Chain if you want to get them before they're all gone. And then the other gentleman, who I don't know if I can say his name live, and I don't remember what his handle was, but he was telling me like at some of the meetings during the Pulse Chain conference that he's talking to all the Bored Apes members about Pulse Chain. And there's a lot of folks over on Ethereum that for whatever reason don't know about Pulse Chain, and so he's just out there spreading the good word, and people are like, what? Richard Hart, who's that? So it's always interesting hearing like this information that we take for granted is like people don't know about it, and it's like, how can you not know about it? Maybe we should just yell louder or something.
Yeah, man, we
You got
tend
a
to stay
thought,
in a
Jay?
vacuum. Yeah. Oh, no, I was just
Yeah.
gonna say that I hope the Bored Apes over at Pulchain's floor price are doing better than the Bored Apes and the Ethereum's floor price because, man, the only NFT that seemingly survived over the over on that side of the crypto sphere is the Pudgy Penguins, because Pudgy Penguins they kind of blew everybody out the water, man. And you know
Yeah.
what's cool about Pudgies, bro? Like,
What's that?
it's really hard to fade Pudgy Penguins because not only are their floor prices so incredibly higher compared to where they were when they first released, especially compared to everything else in the NFT space, but they've made their way into Amazon, into Walmart, bro. I see Pudgy Penguins everywhere. GIFs of Pudgy Penguins, images of Pudgy Penguins from communities that absolutely have nothing to do with crypto. They're all over Facebook. People are posting them. I'm like, I'm in this fitness group on Facebook, and everybody's talking about fitness, and they're using the
Yeah.
Pudgy Penguin memes. None of them know anything about crypto, right? And they're posting
Oh,
their
that's
Pudgy
fucking-
Penguins. I'm like, I know what that is, right? Because I have a few of those.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, I love the Pudgy Penguins, man. Like that's how you. And you know what's cool about the Pudgies, bro, is that they approach the NFT thing in a completely different manner. And I actually think that they're a pretty damn good example of how to succeed, not just as an NFT project, but a crypto project in general. If you want people to be able to dip their toes in and not scare them off with like, yo, centralized exchange this, decentralized that, right? Self custody this. When they made their way into Walmart, they got super popular because they had adorable penguin toys, right?
Yeah.
But in the actual toy itself, there was a little QR code. Everybody knows what QR code is, right? You can scan the QR code, and the landing page is the I don't know exactly where the landing page is, but it takes you to where you could actually interact with the NFTs, and you can actually have particular accessories that go with the Pudgy Penguin toy that you got, right? And so that was kind of the gateway to the NFT because the QR code gives you access to like this accessory that's an NFT. So that was the gateway. The pitch wasn't, hey man, we're a crypto project, come do crypto with us. The gateway was like, yo, we got a really adorable Pudgy Penguin dolls. If you buy it, here's a QR code. If you want to scan it, you got a digital version of the like unique accessory from this toy. And then you could play with the NFT stuff if you want, right? But the buy-in was the adorable toys, right? The buy-in was they were on every single fucking end cap at Walmart. So that's how they got all the eyes. Me and Simon were talking about this in the chat, right? Because he's
I remember
super
that
big on the gaming stuff. And I was telling him that, look, even like you're in Walmart, which is one of the biggest retail outlets in the entire United States. And you're on the end caps, right? That's like high traffic, high volume area. Even if you were to convert like a 0.1% of your millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of leads, you're doing better than most of the crypto space, man. At least when it comes to getting retail to interact with your projects. So shout out to Pudgies, man. I love Pudgies.
Yep, they did great. Pudgies definitely beating out the Bored Apes. I'm curious to see like what's going to be the stuff that like lives on forever. I remember hearing the story about how Bieber bought the top of the Bored Apes or something, and then there was like the ETH rocks and some other NFT
lizards.
things.
The ETH lizards.
ETH lizards. Oh yeah, ETH lizards. Yeah. That's right. Oh, it was the meme dude that rock whatever. I can't remember his name. He's like some Asian guy that does the funny videos about like about getting rugged by his alter ego, dude. I can't remember. I remember seeing him in Charlie and Miguel's streams. But anyways, NFTs are pretty cool. Shout out to you, Frank White. We're glad that we could have you in with us, broski, and keep doing the great stuff that you are doing. Have we got any more super chats, Mr. Agent J?
No, sir. No, sir.
See?
That is the. Oh wait.
All right.
There we go. Hey, what up, Buck?
Just kidding. Oh, snap. Shout out to Dr. Alan Chen, Your Health Unplugged. Happy Sunday, DGens. Get out there and win. Absolutely right, Dr. Chen. Good to see you, broski. Welcome, welcome. He is 100% right. Get out there. Go win. Go get healthy. Go unplug yourself from this horrible, horrible medical tyrannical system. Good to see you, though, Alan. Welcome to the chats. Welcome to the DGen Roundtable. And I do believe that that takes us up for Mrs. McGinnon. If there are any more chat shout-outs, then there we go. We got Farmer Brown sneaking, or Farmer Jay sneaking in at the last moment. Sunday. What's up, bro? It's good to see you, Farmer Brown. Farmer Jay.
What up, Brown?
Yeah, Brown's a good way for me to not get confused with Agent Jay and Farmer Jay. We got all the. I'm pretty sure you guys are like, you both have very similar names, anyways. But it's just like, it's a small world after all.
Yeah, Brown just got back from church.
Oh yeah. He's been not drinking. He's been doing the good stuff. Yep, drinking the blood of Christ. I love it. Excellent. Well, so let's see. So that takes care of the chat shoutouts and things. Mr. Agent J, if you would like to take the wheel, I'd for some analysis. But before that, I'm going to remind the folks at home with my technical analysis that I can't really see my camera, but we're somewhere right here right now. So just you wait till we get up there. That's probably coming later. You might have to wait 10 years. You might have to wait 16 years, but just be patient.
You got to, Will. You got to start using colors.
Agent Jay, why don't you go ahead and using colors? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have any colors with me. I've got a couple toothbrushes.
At least one green.
Ooh, I've got this. I've got a fancy actuator pen. Oh, I see Zenith has joined us. Hello, Zenith.
Sir.
Welcome. Zenith, can I get a sound check? Well, I don't know if he's sound ready because I can't see the private chats right now because I'm on my phone. Let's see. See that you are unmuted, Zenith. Can we get a sound check?
Oh, I know you want Lappy.
I hear scratching. Can you hear him, Jay?
Yeah, scratchy. Yeah, it's very scratchy.
Yeah, Zenith, try doing the old Southeast Asian tech support and unplug it, then plug it back in again.
Yeah. Do that, or you could hit it a few times.
Ooh, we've got him on camera now. Excellent.
I thought there was a snake on his neck, and I realized that's Kitty.
Yep. No. Gentlemen, sorry, we had to wait for someone to get comfy over here. Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah. She's
meow.
She's a sweet girl, and she loves my lap. That is what she lives for at this point.
She's a good kidders. Indeed. Well, we had already introduced ourselves and done some chat shout outs. Zenith, I had already said before, for the folks at home who have never seen you before, Zenith is our DGen Roundtable government and legal analyst, and he's a cool cat. Likes to hang out, go on long walks on the beaches, and some other fun things as well. But how are you doing, bro? What's new and exciting with you?
I'm doing well. Today I enjoyed going on long walks through the woods and the brush to go find my golf balls that I definitely mishit off the tee box, but that's life.
Excellent. I had for the folks that aren't aware, I had recently visited Mr. Zenith and Mr. Agent J in real life, and let me tell you, these guys are some fun cats to hang out with. And I will say, Zenith, that the area that you live in does not look like it's a very friendly for golf kind of place. I'm driving through the desert right now, and it's just like
sir, you would be correct. Unfortunately, we're losing Will, but we'll keep it going. Unfortunately, Will is correct, which is that right now most of the golf courses are still very brown, and they definitely spray painted the greens green. So that's the kind of golf we're playing right now. I'm serious. That's what they do. They paint that. They try to keep it pretty good, but it doesn't work out. At first, they sounded like Cappy. Oh gosh, what's the he has like the boomer intro of like, oh, you gotta pick yourself up by your bootstraps. Oh.
Well, I wouldn't like Cappy might sound like a boomer, but he's far from it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That guy's an absolute Chad, man. Oh, right, I think we lost Will. Look,
he looks pretty frozen.
Yeah.
Well, if anything, I joined at the perfect time because it's probably the point in the show where we talk about how Ethereum is doing very poorly. We
Well,
go tell Vitalik to get his shit together.
yeah, it's Ethereum is actually well, let's go over the charts here. Let me pull up my Bitcoin chart. On the good news, right? On the flip side, both Bitcoin and Ethereum, Bitcoin a little bit better, actually are doing pretty well over the they've actually done pretty well over the weekend. So here's the Bitcoin chart. Let me know when you guys can see that. Wonderful.
We see her.
Awesome. So we're here on the daily chart for Bitcoin. So a little bit of a review for folks. We're not going to get too granular with Bitcoin. We're probably going to go over the daily and then the 4-hour, and then we'll cap it at that. But believe it or not, on Friday evening we had some bullish moves for Bitcoin, and we were doing the Friday morning stream. Came down and hit support, and we were like, you know what? Bitcoin has a bullish structure right now. It came down, respected support. So we actually made some entries in both Bitcoin and Ethereum on Friday, and turns out that was a good entry point. Took some profits, closed some positions Saturday morning, and at the current moment in time, Bitcoin and Ethereum is still holding their bullish structure. Now, Ethereum's a little bit more, I wouldn't call Ethereum having a bullish structure right now. Ethereum has a more sideways consolidating structure on the smaller time frames. Bitcoin is the one that's showing some impulsive structure. So at least until, let's see what market open brings tomorrow. But as of right now, heading into the market open tomorrow, Bitcoin is actually holding and maintaining its bullish structure. So I'm actually short-term bullish, or I should say cautiously hopeful for Bitcoin heading into next week. And we'll go over some of the fundamental reasons why, and some of the more sentimental reasons why we are bullish for Bitcoin heading into next week. But let's go over the charts first and foremost. We are here on the daily chart for Bitcoin. Let's go over the 60-day cycle first. So we have two scenarios that we are considering for Bitcoin, right? The first one is that we have a day 57 low, so that we are currently in a new 60-day cycle with a day 3 high. Now, here's the thing. If we are in a new 60-day cycle, you would probably like Bitcoin to take out the day 3 high, make another high at least until after, probably until after day 7. And then we'll take it from there, right? Whether we have a left or a right translated cycle, we'll take it from there. But if we do have a left translated cycle, you'd like to at least Bitcoin to have a day 7 or so high before rolling over into lower prices. Because if we do roll over into lower prices heading into next week, it means that we're going to have to extend the cycle, which means we don't have a day 57 low. It means that we're probably rolling over into lower prices into the latter half of or I should say post 60 days for Bitcoin, right? So we're probably going to keep looking for lows heading into day 65, day 70, etc., right? But as it stands right now, it looks like that the bulls came and stepped in, supported price over here at around 76,600, and we are now in a new 60-day cycle, right? We are currently on day number 6 of the current 60-day cycle. So that is where we are at the current moment. So we are certainly hopeful, right? We are certainly hopeful for Bitcoin. Now, in terms of price, let's go over, as always, both the bullish and the bearish scenarios for Bitcoin. As it stands, even though we are short-term bullish because of the weekend activity for Bitcoin, as it stands, the bulls do still have majority control of the market, because as you can see, ever since we had our all-time high here on January 25th of this year, we have basically been in a downtrending channel for Bitcoin, right? A pretty considerable, pretty obvious downtrend since the very late parts of January. So bears do still have control of the market. So bears always have to be given their due. What are some of the scenarios that we are looking at for the bears? Well, first and foremost, here's a pretty bearish one, right? You have a W in green, X yet to be finished, and then we are looking for another move down into your Y after we clock in our X. So we're looking at a flat, basically, right? A 3-way move in A, 3-way move in B, and then we're looking for a 5-way move in C to finish that X before heading down into your Y. So what are our price targets for the X, right? If we're taking a look at the flat, if you take a Fibonacci retracement, right, from the very start to the end of W, you are going to get a very common retracement for X, right? Because for WXY patterns, they're sideways and range bound by nature. And so when you compare each leg of the correction to each other, they tend to retrace anywhere between the 786, right? The 786 to the 1.382 fib retracement levels, right? And so if you take a fib retracement from the very start to the end of W, the 1236 and the 1382 is a particular point of interest for us. Obviously, the 786 also, since I just mentioned that, but I am particularly interested in hitting resistance and getting rejected, especially since we're talking about an expanding flat, right, for X at around the 97,627 area. Why is that a particular point of interest? Well, because if you take a volume profile of your all-time high range, you can see that the overwhelming majority of trading volume occurred right here at about 95,954. And you can see that they're basically very close in price, that 1236 and then the point of control. And so if I were a betting man, and if I had some short-term positions and I'm expelling a bullish move up before another move down, then I'm probably going to take profits around the point of control and between the 1236. So that puts you in between $95,000 plus change and $97,600 plus change. In terms of time, when can we expect the X to finish before we head down into Y for the final leg of that correction before we finally resume the rest of the bull market? If we take a fib time tool, now we're comparing the length of W to the length of X, right? We are currently sitting at the 3 fib time. So our next target for the end of X is around the 4 fib time, which takes us at the middle of March, right? Wednesday, March 19th for the potential finish of the X, right? So you have your time targets and you have your price targets for X. For the bullish scenario, it's actually quite simple for the bulls. And the reason for that is you still have a WXY structure, but for the bulls, every single leg of the correction is already in, and we are expecting price to head back up, right? So the bulls have a very simple job, and the job is to keep pushing price to the upside. Now, we have a worst case scenarios. We have a worst case scenario for price actually. So let's actually go to the 4-hour chart and take a look at the worst case scenario for the market at the moment, right? And worst case scenario is probably going to play out if Jerome Powell comes in next week during the FOMC. And the FOMC next week is particularly important. The reason being, I see Twinkie here. He says, fascinating that it's on the 19th. I wonder, Twinkie, if you can comment what's happening around the 19th. I'm not too familiar. Or is that maybe the Fed? That might be the Fed meeting, actually. But if Twinkie, if you can comment what's happening on the 19th, that would be very helpful. So if if Jerome Powell comes in next week and he reveals a summary of economic projections and he's like, look, I know we said about 2 rate cuts this year, but we're actually going to downwards revise those expectations, we might get 0. I think we can pretty much assume how the market is going to take that. It's probably going to tank us down into lower prices, and it's going to extend the left translated. There you go. Twinkie says Fed is the 19th. So if they get not only hawkish, but if they say no rate cuts or less than the predicted 2, it's probably going to extend the left translated cycle further into day 60 and beyond. And we are looking at this worst case scenario for the market. And that is, it's still a WXY, but you're getting a double zigzag, right? And you're looking for a Y to come in, which is another zigzag, a 5-3-5. So you're looking at a 5-wave move in your A triangle. Well, the triangle is actually 5 legs, but and then another 5-wave move down for your C to complete that Y before continuation to the upside. And that C is going to be an impulse, right? A 5 move down for an impulse. Your invalidation for this particular scenario is the 886, right? That is the fib retracement taken from the very start to the end of 1, and the 886 is your invalidation, sitting at 89,301. As you can see right now, we're actually getting rejected right at the golden fib at the 618. Right? So what are your targets for your C? If we were to bias, right? If we were to bias, and I usually bias more recent structures, right? If we were to bias the structure forming, right, for your C, which is this entire move here, you can take a fib retracement, sorry, fib extension, right, from the very start to the end, of A to the end of your B, and your worst case scenario is actually right here at the 1-for-1 fib extension, which is your minimum, at 71,575. That is interesting because it's also just right below the major weekly support from 2024, right? That's your first major weekly support at the very top of that 2024 range, sitting at $73,600. Now, the C wave of a zigzag can extend much lower, right? And we also have interesting support a little bit lower, the 1236 and 1382. If you see, the 2024 point of control is sitting in between those two fibs, right? If you take a point of control of the entire range that we had in 2024, right? That really painful range. I think sometime around, it started around April and lasted all the way until late August, early September. That is where the most amount of trading volume occurred at 66,489. And so that's your next interesting block of support for price if we do happen to lose that 1-for-1 fib extension at 71,575. Finally, something that's a little bit less painful, right? If we take into consideration the entire corrective structure, right? The WXY, we can also take a fib extension from the very start to the end of the W to the end of X. And you can see that we've already hit the common fibs for Y, right? That's the 1 to the 1382 Fibonacci extensions. So your next target is here, the 1618, which is also interesting because it sits just right on top of that weekly support that we spoke about at 73,600. So if we do get another significant bearish move down over the next week, then this is my first interesting area of support, right? That 1618, that weekly support at 73.6. So that's putting you in between 73.6 and 74,427 in terms of support. Now, time. When can we expect the correction to end? Now we are comparing, all right? We are comparing the length of A to the length of C, and you can see that even though we've already hit the minimum targets at the 1-for-1 fib, well, actually the minimum targets is 382, we don't have the structure yet in. So our next target is between the 2 and 3 fib times. So that places you between Thursday, March 20th and Wednesday, March 26th, and then we take it from there. So your worst case scenarios, you have your time targets, and then you also have your price targets as well as your potential area of interest in terms of support, right? For the bulls right now, no matter how you're looking at it, the bulls right now have a very simple job, right? Because every single bullish scenario, we are looking at this low here at 76,600 as the very end of your correction, which means, like I said, for the bulls, very simple goal. Price, keep pushing price up. Every single rejection at key resistance levels, make sure you hold support, make sure you hold structure, make sure you come in with significant volume on the next wave up or the next move up, and then we take it from there, right? So it's very simple. I know I say very simple job for the bulls. They haven't been doing a very good job as of yet, but as far as like bullish structures, we're clocking the end of the correction here. Okay, so very, very simple job for the bulls. And we shall leave it at that. Z, Will, do you have any questions, comments, concerns, or anything to add to the Bitcoin analysis?
Oh. I've got a lot of wind on my truck. That's it.
I see Large and Jemmy rolled in. Glad to see you folks here. Yes, Will.
Excellent. I did have a question for you, Jay, and I remember some of the numbers that you talk about on the Fibonacci. They're the ones that stick out to mind is a 618 and the 0.81. Is that what Is that the fancy one? Is the 0.81?
The 0.886. 886.
The 886. I remember like a long time ago you had said the 886 like reigns is like a 50 to 0 or 100 to 0. It's like it's got a really high strike rate or something. What
Yeah.
does that
So-
what does that mean? Just like when the price target hits that part in the Fibonacci, then it'll rebound the other way?
So the 886 is a
Oftentimes.
the 886 is a very powerful Fibonacci, right? If used correctly, because some people pull the Fibonacci's incorrectly. The reason why the 886 is significant is because on a balance of probabilities, whether you're moving to the upside or to the downside, when that Fibonacci is hit, for example, let's say we were making an impulsive move up for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Just for sake of example, let's say we were looking at a 5-wave sequence. So here's a good case study for people. Let's start with a clean chart. Let's say we are looking at this, right? We are looking at a 5-wave, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? An Elliott wave sequence to the upside.
I don't think you're sharing screen, Jay.
Oh, give me 1 second.
Unless
Let
I'm
me share
mistaken.
screen. You are correct, sir. I'm not sharing screens. So let me go ahead and share screen once again so people have a visual. So let me change this. Let me turn on. Here we go. There we go. Wonderful. Right. So traditional 5-wave Elliott wave sequence to the upside, right? A 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, the Fibonacci's, when you pull it, for example, right? Let's take a target from the very start to the very end of the wave 1. Now, your wave 2, there's a tendency for the wave 2 to retrace anywhere between the 0.5 and the 0.786 Fibonacci, right? You asked about the 618. The 618 is called the golden fib. It's a area where if price tends to retrace to, it's an area of significant discounted value, which is why markets tend to like to buy in between the golden pocket, which is the 618 and the 786. Now, during that first move down, right? Let's say you get a very aggressive move down after the high of 1, and then you're making a move down to your wave 2, right? If that wave 2 hits, right? If it goes beyond the 618 and the 786 and hits the 886 on the balance of probabilities, right? If you hit the 886, you're going to take the low of 1, which is bearish. The same is true for movements to the upside, right? If, for example, we are looking at a corrective structure, for example, let's do one of the corrective structures that we go over here on a regular basis, right? Let's look at a flat, right? An expanding flat, an A, B, C. Give me a second here. Sorry. Change the order there. Here we go. A, B, C. Let me turn on some of the lines. There we go. All right. This one is a very easy corrective structure to actually either take profits or enter positions in, right? So, for example, right, when your A is finished and you find a low and you make a move up into your B, the B, right, because a expanding flat has a tendency to be the most common form of flat, your B wave on a balance of probabilities is going to hit the 886, right? It's going to hit the 886, which is why it's an expanding flat. And so if you get a 5-wave move to the downside here in your C on a balance of probabilities, you can bet that on a corrective structure, you're more than likely going to take the high of B. And so if you get a 5-wave move to the downside here on your C and you find and respect support and you hit the 886 on the way up for your B, you can bet that you're probably going to take the high of B on the next move up, right? And so whether you're talking about corrective structures or impulsive structures, if you pull the 886 Fibonacci correctly, and you do have to pull it correctly, otherwise you're going to get caught off sides on the balance of probabilities.
Yeah.
Once the 886 is touched, whether you're moving up to the whether price is moving to the upside or price is moving to the downside, it's going to take the high or the low. And the reason why I always harp on people about the 886 is because so far, right? So far, every single time we have called an 886 confirmation in the Telegram or here on stream, it has been confirmed. So there are very few analysts that have an indicator that they can say this thing bats 1,000. right?
Mhm.
Like I don't know any other indicator. I don't know any other Fibonacci that I use personally that has batted 1,000 for me, right?
Yeah.
And like it's very powerful if you know how to use it correctly and you know how to pull the fib. But obviously you have to know how to pull the fib, right? That's the caveat. But that's why I like the 886, which is why I use it quite often, because it makes my life easier as a trader. Let's just say.
Okay. And you were talking about pulling the fib correctly. That was between the 1 and the 2. Is that what
Yeah.
you had mentioned earlier?
That's just an example, but so the fib is only relevant on the initial move up or the initial move down.
Okay.
Right? Because if you try to pull the fib and you've extended the either the impulse or correction already too far out, right? At a certain time, you're probably going to hit that fib, but you didn't pull it correctly, right? It's only relevant on either the first move up or the first move down, right? That first structure moving up or the first structure moving down. That's what we care about, right? That first initial touch, right? Because you can extrapolate out into the future and pull a Fibonacci that way, and you're gonna find an 886 fib, but it's not gonna be helpful for you, right? So it's very contextual, right? It has to be within a certain time frame and within a certain move up or down. In this case, it's the initial structure up or the initial structure down.
Okie dokie.
Yeah.
Cool. I learned something today.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, that's the only question that I had. Z, did you have anything to add or to question?
I got a little bit. Let me pull it up. There we go. All right, Mrs. Producer, if you don't mind. So the key indicators that I'm looking at right now is I'm looking at our 200-day moving average and I'm looking at our RSI. So on our 200-day moving average, once we get here towards this cycle low and what we thought might have been a previous cycle low as well, which is that we dipped down below the 200. On the previous one, we were able to recover the 200 and even bounced off it a second time. But looking at within the last 7 days of what we're seeing is that we've really been unable to recover that 200-day moving average.
Yep.
We've effectively retested it twice. That gives me some hope that we're ready to move above it. However, if we're looking at the 20-day moving average, we've stayed below that 20-day moving average. That's the yellow line on screen here. We've pretty much stayed below that since late January. So once we actually start making a move to the upside, that's what I'm going to be looking for breaking through, both the 20-day and that 200-day. Our 50-day moving average is still well above here at about like 92,500. But there's that, and then there's also the combination of the RSI down below. Yeah. Right now, it looks like there was a support level that got flipped into a resistance right around that 42 level, and the longer-term RSI is looking like it's trying to challenge it and come back above it. If we can really recover back above that, that's where we're going to start to see a lot of moves towards the upside and start to see a cycle high that is hopefully much, much longer than day 3, it looks like.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, we had a day 7 cycle high back here for this one. This is abnormally short. Anything shorter than that is probably not super accurate, in which case we're going to have to go back, redo our counts, take a look at what's going on. But right now, day 3 cycle high, I have a lot of hope and a lot of faith that we will have a cycle high that's much, or at least a tad higher or longer than that one.
Yep.
So that's what I'm looking at right now.
Yeah.
It's that 200 and the 200 and the 20-day, which is the 20-day is our short term, 200 is our much longer term. I think that based on everything else going on in the market right now, there is a good chance that we swing to the upside. And as it stands right now, Bitcoin is still largely correlating with the overall market, which the S&P 500 is still largely down and actually looks very similar to the Bitcoin chart there. Let's pull that up real quick. Yep, there you go. So notably, the S&P 500 has not been doing too hot since late January or February-ish, excuse me. But
womp.
A little bit, yeah. But there is a possibility that we hit our lows on the RSI. We have a little bit of a support level that's being confirmed here. We touched it back in June of 24, and then since then there's not a whole lot of other data. But what I'm looking at is that this should still correlate largely with Bitcoin as it happens right now, which is that the market is still correlated with Bitcoin. And especially so since we have the ETFs, we have a lot of institutional players. So at this point in the market, that's what I'm still working off of a good bit. At the same time, though, we are getting to that point in the 4-year cycle where crypto is really going to have the opportunity to kind of explode past everything else going on right now. There are some other factors that are going to include into that, such as unemployment data or perhaps the Federal Reserve rate, which we'll touch on later in the show today. But as it stands right now, yeah, that day 3 cycle high, I anticipate is going to get knocked out, and I'm looking that we're going to have more moves to the upside.
Yeah. And also, I like that bullish divergence on that daily chart, man.
Oh yeah. I'm working on the daily right here, but
Yep.
yeah, we got good upside here off the bottom. The RSI has been coming down, but yeah, we're looking like we're coming towards the upside here. Not saying it's guaranteed, especially since the last time we streamed, I think was this red candle right here, that big one.
Mm-hmm.
Even then, we were talking about how we were very bullish on everything going on. I still largely think that we are. We just had one more correction for the cycle low before we can really start to move towards the upside.
Yeah.
And a 58-day cycle, that's very healthy in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Z, can you switch over to the weekly chart real quick?
Absolutely.
Yeah, look at the RSI, bro. Where is it sitting right now? Right there on support.
Yep, sitting at that 47. Support's around like 45 based on this low that we had. That's interesting. The RSI had the low, not on between the cycle lows and the weekly that we had, because we were talking it was either this candle or this candle. That's interesting how that works out. Yeah.
I mean, it's weaker on the weekly, but you could argue a bullish divergence on the weekly starting to form too. So, which is great, right? Because you like bullish divergence. It's a momentum reversal indicator. So, I like it. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. As far as the rest of the markets are going, though, I think we're seeing a lot of just the Bitcoin influence going on, which is that over on Ethereum, we broke all the way down towards, was that 1750 there? Jeez. And we're currently sitting at 1900. So, yeah, I know that this little section here was giving me hope for Ethereum, but yeah, ever since then, we broke to the downside when Bitcoin also broke to the downside. Ethereum just, went a little bit further.
Yeah.
Solana, a bit of a similar story as well.
Setting at support, man.
Yep, there you go. It's funny how that 120 level seems to just be the bottom of it, and it sometimes
respecting the range.
Yeah, we dropped all the way down to about 111 there for just maybe like an hour or two. But overall, I mean, the rest of the markets, it's looking highly correlated right now. Bitcoin just kind of it's showing that it's leading the way, and then everything else is just moving same direction. It's just more exaggerated directions either way.
Yeah. I mean, Ethereum got juicy, bro. I still have my orders sitting at 1650. 2 of my orders triggered. I had we were going over this in the Telegram. I had strong support sitting at 1750. So I made 2 entries into Ethereum. One at 1850, and then on Friday, after we got that bull structure on Bitcoin, I made an entry at 1825. But unless the bulls can convince me heading into next week, I'm gonna keep my order at 1650. That's a point of control at 1650. So yeah, man, I haven't bought Ethereum, bro. That's the first time I set an order for Ethereum in almost a year.
Wow. Okay. Feeling good on Ethereum buying up these lows. I mean, it sounds crazy to say, but like, when did we top out on Ethereum? Probably here in November, December of 24 at about like 4,100.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen these prices down in the below 2,000 since back in like 2023, like late 2023, like November, October, that kind of time frame.
Yeah. It was a good spot to buy, man. Like the not only was sentiment rock bottom, the RSI for Ethereum, because remember on that Sunday stream, bro, before you went to Vegas, we were like, yo, Ethereum looks like it's going to have... Ethereum already has bullish divergence, and on a balance of probabilities, Monday, we probably take the cycle low for Bitcoin. We took the cycle low for Bitcoin, and I was like, if we take the cycle low, you're going to get a bullish divergence for Bitcoin as well. So I was like, okay, this is a good time, even though the price is dumping, right? You get bullish divergence in the chart. Everything is oversold. Sentiment was like at like fucking what? It was like 10, 13. I was like, well... all right, it's still a bit expensive for Ethereum, right? Considering we bought most of our Ethereum at around like sub 1,000. But I was like, you know what? Fuck it, man. Let's buy Ethereum at around 1,700. Why not?
It's not a bad place to get in. And
Yeah.
if anything, like, are we definitely lower than I thought we were going to be? For sure. But at the same time, it's nothing absolutely crazy. Like, for example, I'm going to pull up the another screen share. Apologies. The crypto fear and greed index. Right now, we're sitting at 33. Last week, we're at 20. So even though price has not recovered that much, the sentiment is definitely starting to recover for sure.
Yeah.
We bottomed out at about 10.
There
Hit
you go,
15, hit a 20, 27, 30s. So the sentiment is building for sure. And I got to say, I think the rest of the market is starting to this is an indicator of the sentiment of the rest of the market. And based on a lot of the OTC orders that I'm seeing coming through on my Telegram alerts, is that institutional players are buying.
Yep.
Which is that even though prices are low now, there's a decent chance they're not going to be this low forever because people are still buying everything up. People are still buying up Bitcoin, buying up Ethereum. A lot of the assets, they're getting a good deal on the cheap. And overall, the orders are showing that large players and a good chunk of the retail investors are trying to scoop up as much as they can. Granted, it's another dip, and it's the classic meme of buy the dip, and it's like, with what do we possibly have left? But people are they're searching through the couch, they're looking through the cushions, they're finding the change to throw into the market.
Dude, man. So I went over just on Saturday, bro. It's like people have an easy time buying dips, but they have a very difficult time selling, right? And so me and Dace went over the importance of setting stop losses when you're entering positions, because there was this one gentleman who was on X. He was like, he posted it when Ethereum went to 1750, and he was like, I would rather hold Ethereum down to 0 than to sell here. I'm like, I get the sentiment, right? But the goal is to cultivate crypto and capital preservation and capital accumulation, right? If you bought Ethereum, like a lot of people bought the top at around 4,000, where the hell is your stop loss, right? You should have had like anywhere between a 2 to 3, maybe 5% stop loss on Ethereum, so that if the trade did go opposite the direction that you were thinking, then okay, you took a small L, right? Anywhere between a 3 to 5% L, right? If your stop loss is reasonable, and then but you have a bigger win, because you could have bought at 3,000, you could have bought at 2,500, you could have bought at 2,000, you could have bought at 1,750. If you would have swallowed your pride, right, or exercised proper risk management, you would have more money to buy the dip, right? And so it's like risk management, bro. Like I know we like buying dips, but like, set your stop losses, gang. It's very easy to set. It's very easy to set them. They're not difficult to set, man.
That's true.
You know, so if shit hits the fan and the trade goes in the other direction, you have money. You have money to buy back in, and you're not just sitting in your hands watching everybody else buy up the discounts. Because we're not all made out of money, right? One day, maybe, hopefully, right?
One day.
At a certain point, we are going to run out of dry powder to buy these lows.
That's true.
So,
I mean,
like risk management, man.
I know we've
Brown, bro.
We've been joking about it this whole time, saying like Ethereum is really enjoying the third cycle curse, but like, goddamn, it really is.
Yeah.
My stop loss is 0, so saith Farmer Brown.
Bring up.
Look, that's some conviction, all right. It's a different kind of stop loss for sure, but.
I mean, Brown, that's what I was saying, right? That's why we pulled up the comment, because a lot of people have that sentiment. I'm just going to write everything down to 0. I'm like, bro, that's not the game, man. The game is not to write things to 0, bro. Like I want you guys to win, but you have to set these stop losses.
Yeah,
it's
an important tool to have in your toolbox. Like, and you know, it might not be for everybody. Some people might have a legitimate, like, you know what, I'll write it to 0. I think that a problem is a lot of people say, I will write it to 0, and they'll write it down 95%, then sell it, and then it'll go up again, you know, and so they won't ever actually ride it to zero.
When it comes to the "I'll ride it till zero" mentality, there's two ways to look at it. There's the literal translation, which is that I will ride it all the way to F and zero. But then there's the more philosophical or like sentiment thing, which is like, I believe in crypto and I know that one day it is going to come back. In which case, that's what Jay's talking about, which is have stop losses and understand that there are times to enter and exit the market.
Yep.
Buying and holding like forever is absolutely a strategy, but also understand you're gonna kind of eat those losses at some point. Like, shoot, Ethereum's at probably a little more than 50% correction since that 4,100 high, especially considering we got all the way down to like 1,700. Yeah, so believe none of us here have any idea that crypto is going to go to literal zero in the next, like, what, 4 to 8 years effectively. I think all of us are definitely of the mind that crypto is going to be something that's going to last into the future. It's going to last the test of time. There will be a lot of volatility along the way. But guess what? That's why we're here, because there's volatility to the downside, but there's also massive volatility towards the upside. And that's what we're here for.
Yeah. I think minimum Bitcoin is $10 trillion asset, man. I think at least it equates to the market cap of gold. I might be biased, but you know.
Yeah, we are absolutely biased. But at the same time, though, it's the idea that Bitcoin is going to flip gold one day. That's not crazy at all. I don't think it is. And I mean, shoot, right now we're sitting at what, 2.67 trillion market cap. We topped out at about 3.7 trillion market cap. Yeah. The idea that we could do a 2x off the highs and get all the way up to like 7 or something, or maybe even high 6s, that's very realistic for this cycle. And then even like next cycle after that, getting all the way up to like maybe 12, 15 trillion if we're getting real crazy with it. Like, these are very realistic numbers that I'm throwing out here. And when you compare that to gold, which at the same time, understand the gold market cap is going to go up. There's a finite amount of gold, and we have not figured out how to extract all the tiny particles of gold out of like the ocean supply and the earth and everything. So we're still very much at the mining stage where you got to go dig through the mountain and find the nuggets. Yeah. But gold is going to go up, but I do believe crypto is going to go up more. Especially, you know what do we say? I don't think it's going to happen this cycle. Next cycle is maybe like a 50-50 shot. 2 cycles from now, yeah, very, very realistic chance that crypto market cap is going to meet or beat the gold market cap. Yeah, that's a very realistic thing. I mean, we already knocked out the silver market cap this cycle. Like, what's next?
Yeah. I think this cycle, I think we have a good chance of, if Bitcoin's at 2.7, I think Bitcoin can get around to like maybe 4 trillion. Maybe 5, like moonshot 5. But I think 4 trillion for Bitcoin this cycle is actually reasonable. And then total crypto market cap, probably maybe 6 or so. Right? Still pretty damn good gains.
Those are very good gains for sure. Yeah. I mean, for reference, Bitcoin hit 2.15 trillion back in, what was that? January 2025. And it also hit it in December of 24. So doing a 2x off of that, that's still well within the Richard Hart target of, what was that, 241.5K Bitcoin? 241. Yeah. Yes, sir. That's hitting 4 trillion market cap is below that prediction. So if that one happens, that's very realistic this cycle.
Yeah. You just gotta what do you call it? You just gotta keep believing, man.
Smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave.
You just gotta believe, man. You gotta praise it to Satoshi every single night. Please, Satoshi.
It's crazy how much like religion there is.
Yeah.
It's like we're gonna start creating little digital idols, and
I mean, we got them now.
Like
we got them, right?
Yeah. It is amusing how how similar this online Ponzi digital gambling, financial system, how many similarities there are with it to religion, to like sports conviction, political conviction, just like the amount of belief that human beings will put in a thing based on like essentially what amounts to like fairy dust sprinklings on our brain,
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It is. I mean,
What a
just to
fun
give a
world we
little
live in.
reference, the 2017 top was at about 350 billion market cap for Bitcoin. It effectively 4x'd between 2017 and 2021.
Yeah.
So even if you want to go off diminishing gains, you go for like, I don't know, a 3x or a 2x, that's still talking about like 3.6, little under $3 trillion market cap for just Bitcoin alone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the reason the reason that it does feel kind of like a cult or a religion, so to speak, is that when you're talking about these numbers in context of the rest of the markets, it seems a bit unrealistic. However, at the same time, this is still an emerging technology, and everything we're talking about is going off previous trends. Assuming that the trend is going to hold, as I'm sure you're all well aware of, that we believe in that here, which is that we're going to keep believing that the trend is going to hold until it proves that it doesn't, then everything is still right on track. Like, yeah, it's a dip right now, but we are still well above, even some of the highs that we had back in 2024.
Mm-hmm. Exactly,
Yeah.
man. It's if you just zoom out on a long enough time frame, the chart is up and to the right. Now, it's funny because Uncle Peter has been celebrating on crypto Twitter at like every single moment that he can get.
Yeah.
But Uncle Peter is a perpetual bear, right? Uncle Peter Schiff is a perpetual bear. I don't trust what he says about Bitcoin, because when he says Bitcoin going down, eventually he's going to be right. I mean, all crypto bears and all crypto non-believers are right for at least for the past 12 years. They were right once out of every 4 years of the 4-year cycle. And so unless Uncle Peter Schiff can actually show me, okay, man, like when is, like, do you have an accurate bear call that you could tell me like within the reasonable next 60-day cycle or so, and you can actually call it, then I might have a little bit more belief in your analysis. But if you're just a perpetual Bitcoin's going to zero, well, at a certain point in time, you're going to be right? You're going to get like a 30% dip in the market, like we always do. You're going to get a bear market, and probably we're going to drop down another 70%, maybe 60% or so, and you're going to be right then. But it's like, if you're somebody who's like, your batting average is low.
If you just keep throwing the darts at the dartboard and you never stop throwing the darts at the dartboard, eventually you get a bullseye.
Exactly, right? But your batting average is low. So
Yeah.
can I really trust you as an analyst, Uncle Peter? No, sorry, man. It's like give me something a bit, give me something more to chew on if you're going to be a Bitcoin bear, because just saying that it's going to zero, like it's very hard to take you seriously. And I want to take him seriously, right? Because he's not exactly stupid.
Oh, for sure. These people have points. They have good track records, and they have a good career to work off of. This is a new asset in a space that's largely still unexplored. We do have our first like handful of cycles in, talking about the use cases for various things and even iterations on it. But Mrs. Producer, if you don't mind doing the old screen share again. Like, even when the bears are correct, there are still corrections towards the upside. Like, for example, when we're talking about Bitcoin, even in the last cycle, there were two 40+% correction. There are two 40% periods of gains on the way down. So even if you are bearish, you're not going to be correct the entire time on the way down. Largely, you will be correct for sure. But at the same time, that's still that volatility that we're talking about. Like, if you can have two corrections of, was this January through March of 2022, that's a 2-month span, and June of 2022 through August of 2022, another 2-month span. Those are two 2-month spans, talking about 44% corrections towards the upside in a bear market. So that volatility is still there. So even if you're bearish over the long term, which we're going to be at some point here coming up soon, I personally think it's going to be towards the end of 2025, all the way pretty much down through the rest of 2026, which is going to be a bear market. But even then, there will still be some upside, and there will still be some potential to make money. Or on the flip side, there will still be potential to get liquidated if you're trying to short the market.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, if I was gonna get heavier on shorts, I would probably start shorting during I would probably bias shorting on a bear market than I am during a bull market, bro.
Yep.
Sure. All right. Tell you what, gents, you guys want to talk about some Federal Reserve stuff?
Let's do it.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. Just so you guys are aware, I put in the private chat too. I don't know if you've seen, but I gotta hop off around the bottom of the hour. Will y'all be good to roll the show on without me or whatnot? Or
Yeah, man.
we can do whatever. But just so you guys know, I gotta hop off around the 30-minute mark.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We absolutely can. Alrighty, Mrs. Producer, I do have another screen share for you when you are ready. Thank you very much. All right, folks. Next FOMC, like Twinkie mentioned at the beginning of the show, is coming up on the 18th and 19th. 19th is when they're actually going to announce the results of it. So we got 2 days, 16 hours, and some change. But right now, we're looking at largely no change, which is what we talked about earlier. 99% chance, no change. And if you look at some of the previous data, it's only increased slightly. So a month ago, we were at 97, 98 a week ago, and now we're at 99 and even 98 one day ago. So as it stands right now, don't expect any cuts in the interest rate. But outside of that, looking into the future, we have the May meeting coming up. 84% chance of no cut as well. And it only gets into June where we see the highest probability of a cut. So as it stands right now, the market is betting that we're not going to see a rate cut until June. That's a good chunk of China, especially considering that we were talking about doing 4 rate cuts this year about like 6 months ago.
Yep. Exactly. Now, I know everybody's kind of hoping for good news on this reserve meeting. If he holds it, I think at the minimum, we're not going to dump, right? It's really the summary of economic projections that we need to pay attention to. But even during the May meeting, right? I know right now it seems like the CME saying, look, we don't expect another cut in May. But remember, we're going to get the CPI print for March, and then we're going to get a CPI print for April before that Fed meeting, I believe. And so imagine if we get core inflation and headline inflation moving to the downside to the degree that they did during the last print, right? We had, I think it was a 2-year low for core that we got during the last print, which is pretty damn significant, right? 2-year low. So we haven't had a core inflation print like that for over 2 years. And remember, that's Bean always comes on here, right? When he talks about it and he talks about that thing being sticky. Well, we just finally cracked the 2-year support for core. So if that continues downwards along headline inflation, then you could probably you nudge Jerome Powell a little bit more on the side of okay, well, inflation is heading to our 2% goal. Core inflation isn't so sticky anymore, and the labor market seems to be stable. Maybe we give you a little bit more rate cuts, right? Maybe not QE just yet, but at least more cuts.
Absolutely. We're gonna have to just keep an eye on the markets as it stands right now. The inflation is coming down, unemployment has been leveling out, and we are still relatively early on in the new administration, which is going to be a shift in policy.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing is like inflation, right around 4.1%. We're not going to get another one of those until early April, if I believe. And again, keep in mind, all this stuff is lagging by an entire month. Yeah. So like we talked about previously, this realistically is one of the first real metrics that we're getting for the Trump administration. And keep in mind, this is also not including all the stuff going on right now, because in the last like 3-4 weeks, we've had a handful of tariffs come into effect, both with the U.S. imposing tariffs on other folks and other countries imposing some other tariffs on the United States. But then again, a lot of those people have been backing off of them, or at least caving to the negotiation tactic of the administration, shall we say. But as it stands right now, yes, this is 1 month of a good positive print towards inflation at 2.8. Granted, it did come in lower than the anticipated rate of 2.9%. But overall, when you take everything into account for like the last 2 years, effectively, we had 2-3 months at around like 3.7, and another one at like 3.6, 3.4. And we're moving towards, or at least closer to, that 2% goal overall. Yeah. And I know it sounds painful to hear that we're really not going to see some of the longer term effects of the administration and the policy bit being put in place until probably the summer, to be realistic. But that's just how this data works. It's the macro market. It moves slowly. Yes, we are in the crypto space, the fastest moving market out there, open 24/7, baby. But at the same time, because of like I talked about earlier, we are largely correlated with some of the larger markets now, especially considering we have the Bitcoin ETF. We have a lot of large players like MicroStrategies and even Coinbase and all the Bitcoin miners out there. So are we more correlated to the market? Yes. Do we still have the potential to pump? Also, absolutely yes. But at the same time, when it comes to the endpoints of the 60-day cycles, I'm not going to be surprised if we're largely correlated with those probably through June, July-ish time before we really start to like giga pump and go wild.
Yeah. You know what I noticed, Z? I noticed that just like the markets, inflation doesn't come down in a straight line. So just
really doesn't.
Just a bit of a reminder for people. Just like we get bullish moves and bearish moves in the market, you're gonna get some bullish moves and bearish moves in inflation as well. So just keep that in mind, man. Nothing goes up or down in a straight line forever.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of talk about the R word out there about recession, but like, please understand, Trump was elected based on the proposal he put out there, which a lot of it talked about cutting back with the government. The government is still one of the largest spenders, if not still the largest spender in human history. Like, the United States has racked up more debt than the world has ever seen before. These are like truly unprecedented times because we're so far into modernity that we're dealing with numbers that are so large. So I still do believe in Doge and Elon Musk and all the cuts that they're making over there, which is that cutting out waste, fraud, and abuse is still very much a worthwhile effort. On the other side of the table, though, until we start getting serious about talking about the other half of the pie effectively, which is Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security, the overall macro trend is not going to be corrected. In the short term, though, these are some very good cuts. And if you're a big fan of Kevin O'Leary, shoot is Mr. Wonderful, I think that's the nickname. Yeah, he's even saying cut by 20% more. So there are serious business people out there that are saying, yes, this is good, but they still want to see more. Sorry, Will, I cut you off there.
I was just gonna like tee off of what you're talking about with Elon, like trimming the government. Like, his super crazy method is he asks people what they're doing, sees if they can do it better, sees if it needs to happen, and then like asks if they could do it better or automate it. You know, it's just like he put out like a list of 4 bullet points, like how he makes things better, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. Like, seeing as like, oh yeah, well, duh, of course that's what they should be doing. And just like there's so much like vitriol and hateful propaganda being thrown in that direction, and it just, I don't know, man. I am amused by the craziness of people's responses to what's going on. But yeah, I would love to see the government spend less money. I would love to see the value of my dollars be higher. All this stuff would be very, very nice. And there was that other, I don't know if this is a good tee off point because we're talking about the Fed, but you had mentioned earlier also the moves that this administration is making. One of the things Jay and I were talking about in the green room is the there's oh shoot, I can't remember what the dude's name is, but it was some senator or congressman guy. They were proposing a bill to like codify the changes being made with the strategic reserve. Is that a good transition, you think, or did you guys want to talk more about the Fed still?
Yeah.
No, we can talk about that.
When it comes to that particular item, Will, so the bill was there was an event last week with a ton of pretty big speakers, and one of them was Senator Lummis, and I forgot
Senator Moonlight.
Yeah, I forgot the congressman who's running point with her, but they're basically reintroducing the Bitcoin Act. And the reason why this is significant is because the Bitcoin Act has now taken into consideration all of the stipulations that Donald Trump had in his executive order, right? With the executive order from Donald Trump, the only way that you could add Bitcoin onto the balance sheet that's not from seizures from like criminal activities, for example, and all those other kinds of forfeitures, was that if the procedure didn't cost taxpayer money. And so you guys already know that Senator Lummis had a prior draft of the Bitcoin Act, but that obviously had not taken into consideration all of the all of the stipulations from the executive order. And so they went back to the drawing board, they redid it, and now the new Bitcoin Act that has now, here's the cool thing, right? It has already passed through the Senate and is now being sent over to Congress. And the reason why that's significant is because, remember, unlike Congress, the Senate is a little bit more wishy-washy when it comes to Bitcoin-related things. Even though we now have a predominantly Republican, like we have a Senate majority that is Republican, right? We have less support from the left when it comes to crypto in the Senate. But since it's already passed through the Senate hands and is now moving Congress, we know that we have overwhelming support for crypto in Congress. So on a balance of probabilities, this is going to go through Congress. It's already been approved by the Senate, and it's obviously probably going to be approved by Donald Trump himself, which means if you codify this into law, it makes it that much more unlikely that a future administration, let's say it swings back to the Democratic side, they don't like Bitcoin, it makes it much more difficult or much more unlikely that they're going to be able to overturn the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve or the Bitcoin Act. So that was the whole significance of what happened last week about Senator Lummis reintroducing the bill.
Yeah, there's a lot of legislation going on right now regarding the Bitcoin Act, and there's a good chunk of legislation going on overall. So this last week, they passed a continuing resolution in the House and Senate to pretty much fund the government through September. And then with what Jay is talking about here, with what Cynthia Lummis introduced, which is that they introduced the bill to codify the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. So the players are moving and things are going. Obviously, the continuing resolution was the number one priority because you got to keep the lights on at the government. Although I have personal feelings about that one, which is that if you shut down the government, people's lives are probably going to slightly improve, in my personal opinion. But overall, when it comes to the Bitcoin legislation that Cynthia Lummis and the rest of the people are proposing, this is obviously going to take second fiddle to anything else going on to fund the entirety of the government. But this is specifically a follow-on to the executive order that came out of the president's desk talking about the establishment of a Bitcoin reserve. And by the way, shout out to Twinkie. He pointed me towards, oh gosh, I'm pretty sure it was this one. Yeah, so here we go. So item 3C, saying the Secretary of the Treasury and the Secretary of Commerce shall develop strategies for acquiring additional government Bitcoin, provided that such strategies are budget neutral and do not impose incremental cost on U.S. taxpayers. However, the United States government shall not acquire additional stockpile assets other than in connection with criminal or civil asset forfeiture proceedings or in satisfaction of any civil monetary penalty imposed by any agency without further executive or legislative action. So this is a interesting little tidbit here because it's talking about how everything has to be cost neutral to the taxpayer effectively.
Yes.
However, when I also showed this to Nuclear Herbs before we did our panel in Vegas, he said, based on that language, there's actually a case you can make where theoretically, if a crypto company has to pay any sort of like penalty or fine to the government, they could possibly pay it in that cryptocurrency. So theoretically, like if XRP gets fined, XRP could just pay XRP tokens to the government to cover their butts.
Yep.
Yeah. There's a lot of weird kind of like mathematics that go on within the United States government and how they calculate certain things. So for example, whenever you talk about tax cuts are technically calculated as an expense. Previously, they've done that. So whenever you talk about tax cuts, is it theoretically going to be cost neutral or possibly beneficial to the government? Because if you remember the Laffer curve, which is talking about, it's that sideways like bell curve. It's talking about there's a period where you're going to reach peak tax revenue. And then if you tax anymore, you're actually going to receive less revenue because you're incentivizing people to go elsewhere. That's one of those things. So stuff like this is when you're talking about being tax neutral. Yes, we've talked about this. The U.S. government currently holds about 250,000 Bitcoin, not $250,000 in Bitcoin, 250,000 Bitcoin itself as what they have already. So with what they're proposing right here is they're talking about how we're trying to do something cost neutral, or it's all going to have to come through forfeiture or seizure effectively. So as it stands right now, the U.S. government is not looking to purchase any Bitcoin. However, in the future, they are still very much looking to do that through stuff like the bill that they proposed through Cynthia Loomis's desk, talking about buying up potentially 5% of the entire Bitcoin supply, which, by the way, that's a pretty penny.
That's a pretty nice chunk of change.
Oh, for sure.
Lots of dineros.
Mhm.
There was one part in that little paragraph
Executive
that I
order?
didn't like. No, in the thing we have highlighted where it talks about like the criminal civil asset forfeiture.
Mhm.
I've never much liked that stuff. I don't know if you guys Zenith, I don't know if you remember the talk that Gabriel gave. Gabriel Vlasides, shout out to him, by the way. He was one of the first guys ever to create ASIC miners for Bitcoin. Him and his brother started a company. It was like Butterfly Bitcoin mining or whatever, but it got seized by the feds, and they took all the machines which had all the Bitcoin. They fucking stole like 50,000 Bitcoin.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
it's like, hot damn, man, it happened like back in the beginning, and it's because they were charged with some like fraudulent payment processor bullshit law. So like one of the things that I really don't like about any of the laws or any of the stipulations or any of the things, it's like, hey, the government could take this stuff like as part of like crime scene and evidence collecting and all that stuff. Like a lot of laws get abused. A lot of privileges, I don't want to say privileges, but powers that are granted to the state to collect things,
Yeah.
they get used not necessarily in the spirit of the law, but it enriches the government. It enriches the people that are doing the asset forfeitures. Like I know plenty of guys who have got raided by the ATF or by local cops, had all of their guns taken away as part of evidence, and then these guns end up back up on the streets, and the cops got an extra like $5,000 in their pocket. Like I've seen this happen time and time again, and so I'm hesitant of any sort of proceedings or litigation, or litigation is the wrong word.
Will, your
Lawmaking.
overall sentiment is very correct, which is that
Yeah.
it feels like governmental power, especially on the federal level, is a one-way ratchet that only increases.
Correct.
And the more ways you give the government inroads to get access to your crypto, the more ways they're going to take advantage of it and try to argue that they should be able to go one step further, and then eventually you end up a mile down the road.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing I just warn against, is like, this is something for the folks at home to consider. Like if you're thinking about supporting this bill, just understand that language is in there, and that's a thing that exists. And it's like, are we powerless to change it? Do we have a voice? Do we have capability? Like it's good for everyone to understand the entire circle, not just the juicy part that we really, really like, that says like, hey, government's buying our bags. We like that stuff. That's pretty cool. Like understand also there's like, hey, they can use criminal proceedings to seize your assets. And so like, be careful having your treasures sitting out somewhere where daddy government can just snag them and pick them up. And like, there's things
Good
that,
luck, man.
yeah,
even
it's like,
if you took our treasures, good luck getting in there.
yeah, there's tech that can break the wallet if you have the wallet. That was another thing that Gabriel was talking about, that the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, has, that they borrow over to us. That's something I want to interview Gabriel, if you're watching. I want to talk to you about that, sir. I got that in my notes from the Pulse Chain tour. But like, the government seizes Bitcoin. That is very real. They definitely do that. Like Germany had all that Bitcoin that they dumped on the market at 50K, right? Like it's something to consider. And with that, gentlemen, I have to go ahead and bow out. It's been a fantastic stream. Y'all go ahead. You're going to keep carrying on, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Okay. For the
Take
folks
care,
at home
brother.
who don't know where you can find me, you can get all of my socials at will.pls.fyi. We are covering mismanners, extremely correct etiquette behavior for book club, and that's all I got. I will see y'all later. Remember to use it responsibly. Love you. Bye.
Take care, brother. Love you. Bye.
Bye, Will. Alrighty. So with Will gone,
That guy's
let's
such a dick.
just gonna do him dirty like that, huh? All right. I was gonna say, now that Will's gone, let's talk about some bullish news.
Let's do
So
it.
with the legislative side of things again, we have actually, while we were in Vegas, this happened while we were there during the conference live. Texas actually passed a Bitcoin reserve bill. So this is live and it's in effect. So Texas and some of the other states have been proposing a lot of this legislation going on. Most of the bills have actually failed somewhere in the Senate or between committee or between houses, but Texas actually got the job done and they passed the whole dang thing. Utah got very, very close, and I believe that their bill failed to pass Senate. It got through their House, it got through a second committee, and it got to Senate, but it did not get actually passed there. Texas, on the other hand, they did it. They did the whole shebang. They got it done. So when it comes to not just the federal government, but the rest of the states actually starting to look into using this stuff effectively, it's on the rise. And not just that, but again, when we go over and we talk about some of the other stuff, which is that there's a lot of other ETFs that are being filed right now. Shoot, there was a Doge ETF within the last month. We now have an AVAX ETF. I believe this is either a second filing of the same one, or this is a second group trying to file for an AVAX ETF. The point being is the market down right now? Yes. Is sentiment pretty low? Also yes. However, at the same time, people are still building, people are still developing, they're still making moves towards the upside. There's a lot of stuff going on right now, so don't let the local lows fool you into thinking that the bull market's over, crypto's dead, we're never going to get any further than this. No, the ball is still being progressed 1 yard at a time. Price might just not be following that right now as it stands, but actions are still being taken and people are still making moves out there.
Yeah. It's just funny because like you don't have to observe the charts to the degree that we do. You could look at something simple like the fear and greed index, and historically speaking, every single time that the fear and greed has hit the rock bottom levels of around like 10 or lower has been historically a very good time to buy. If you know us here at DRT, we'd never use like a singular variable to dictate our trades, but if you wanted to, like historically, like for example, the fear and greed is a good one, right? Historically speaking, and every single time it's below like around 10, it's a pretty damn good time to buy. If you look at some of the on-chain stuff, right? Like every time the Z score is below X, it's a good time to buy. Every single time Pi cycle crosses here, it's a good time to buy in the bear market, right? Like if you wanted to use singular indicators, there are some really good singular indicators out there to tell you when to buy or when to sell. But like we're talking about the fear and greed here, and everything is in the shitter, and it's probably the best time to buy, especially if you don't have any exposure. Like throw 1 to 2% in there, man, right? Like Larry Fink says, 1 to 2%. How's it gonna hurt you? You got risk, like you got risk exposure to the best performing asset of all time. Don't you want to at least consider it? Right? You were talking about the ETFs, Z. I don't know if you guys know this, but a lot of the Ethereum ETFs are restructuring their filings to include staking now. Remember how we couldn't get that when it was GG running the SEC? So like I'm bullish still.
Absolutely. That's another point that I missed, which is that beyond just like filings for new stuff, people like, I'm pretty sure some of the Ethereum staking functions for the ETFs, they've been progressing, not just being proposed, but progressing through the SEC.
Yeah, man. So like I know Ethereum's kind of the butt of every single single joke right now, but dude, the price is like juicy again. Still a bit expensive for me, but I'm like, man, this is a really good discount. Anything above 2,000 Ethereum is expensive. But I was like, oh, you know what? 1850. Let's buy some more ETH.
Look, you're not wrong. And if anything, the flows are showing it as well, which is that right now the ETFs have been largely selling ever since pretty much like, I don't know, mid to late February. And if you remember from the DA portion, yeah, that's about when price started heading downwards again. So like everything is matching up right now. We're not really getting thrown any curveballs. Nothing crazy is coming through except for some of the macro stuff when it comes to like the Trump tariffs and whatnot, just because we're in the early days of an administration when he was largely talking on the campaign trail about imposing tariffs, clawing back funds from fraud, waste, and abuse, and all that kind of stuff. It's tracking in line. We're not seeing anything out of the ordinary right now. And for some of our fans that have also seen us talk about the Z score for the MVRV, or the market value retail value, right now we're sitting pretty healthy, about like 1.7, bottomed out at 1.5. And if you remember, anytime we get back below like pretty much like 0.5 and below, that's the real like market bottoms. We're still well above that, and we have not hit those like exponential areas yet where we actually start to see market tops. So the structure is not broken. People are still moving in ways that are largely make sense. This is just, it's a local correction. And I mean, if anything, right now, all the overall trend is that things are moving towards the upside. Yeah, we're having a bit of a local dip, but yeah, we're going to keep saying it over until we're blue in the face. We are still in the bull market. It's just a correction. So like, don't sell your bags. Don't go away for now. Not financial advice, but just telling you what we're doing. Like, things are still in play. Things are absolutely still in play.
Yeah. I know a lot of people are getting discouraged because it's not exactly the Q1 that we expected Q1 of a post-halving year to be. But guys, okay, so here's a bit of hopium. Q2, historically speaking, has returned an average of about like 25, maybe around 30%. And that's Q2 in general, right? That's not considering Q2 the post-halving year. So heading into April, May, June, if we get an average of 25% return, I mean, you're looking at what, $120,000 Bitcoin, maybe, depending on where we end March. Let's see where we end March, right? And then we can extrapolate about a 25% average return for Q2, and then we'll take it from there, right? But like 130,000 Bitcoin by end of Q2 of this year, it's still a bull market, man.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the data agrees with us, because even if we go and we look at, so right side of the screen is Ethereum, left side of the screen is Bitcoin. If we're looking at the quarterly returns, going back to the Bitcoin previous cycle high, so Q1 was about 11.9%, 2013. That's a little bit harder to figure.
Oh, there we go.
Correlate, because that's where we don't get quite as much data.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, these are the years that we're supposed to be green, and we're supposed to be green in the big. And even looking over at the Ethereum stuff, 2017, 500%, 450%. It's pretty wild. 160%, 118% off of that as well. Yeah. And keep in mind, for Ethereum, we also had the double top for the year of 2021. But shoot, all of 2021 was green for Ethereum. Yep. And even all of 2020 was as well. It wasn't nearly as much because we had the big pumps in Q4 of 2020 and Q1 of 2021 where we really went exponential with it. But I mean, as far as the data lookings, like it's all tracking. We're right on track. It's just experiencing a localized low, shall we say.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Q1's not done yet. I know everybody's like, "Oh my goodness, is this gonna be the first red Q1 of the post-halving year for Bitcoin? This has never happened before." Guys, we're still 15 days away from closing the month of March. So we'll see. We'll see. We still got 2 weeks.
For sure.
2 more weeks, right? 2 more weeks.
Exactly. The classic one, if you will. But at the same time, when you're looking at some of this data, do keep in mind that where you set that start point and end point is going to affect that data a good bit. And if you extrapolate a little bit out from there, either direction, that can affect your data a good bit as well. But the overall sentiment is what we're looking at here. We're not trying to get like pinpoint precise with it, especially when we're looking at quarters at a time. We're looking at 3 months of data at a time and trying to put it as a specific number that doesn't tell the entire story.
Oh, dude, speaking of quarters, bro. So last, I think it was the 2 weekends ago, Donald Trump was being interviewed by Fox News. And they were talking about all of the policies that he was pushing forward, in particular the tariffs, and the effects that it was having on the market. And they were like, "Hey, like, are you concerned that markets are kind of crashing right now?" And Donald Trump was like, this really surprised me, because he said, "Look, guys, you can't take a look." You can't take a look at what's happening to the markets now and take it too seriously, because China, this just surprised me because he mentioned China. He was like, "Guys, look at China. China has 100-year outlook. Versus us here in the West, we look at things in quarters. So have a long-term perspective, because what we're doing now is beneficial for the long term. So I just thought that was a good tie-in, because even Donald Trump himself, bro, he's like, guys, and the guy gave credit to China. He's not exactly the biggest fan of China. So the fact that he was like, guys, we got to have a long-term perspective, right? If the Chinese have 100-year perspective, can we at least look past a single quarter and look at the potential benefits this is gonna bring down along the line?
I agree. Give a shout out to How Money Works. It's a YouTube channel that's largely macro focused, and then also I personally think the sentiment is a bit bearish, or rather bearish. But that guy talks about a lot of the stuff going on in the macro markets right now. Like the stock buybacks idea was proposed all the way back in like the late 2000 aughts. And people have been, the large companies have been chasing it ever since. And then theoretically, we should have pretty much topped out with it around like 2015, 2016, 2017 in there. But they just kept doubling down. And we're at the point where we are now. So to all the sports fans out there, is this a bit of a rebuilding year? Yeah, quite possibly. But at the same time, though, like the point of the rebuilding year is to get ready for the next like decade effectively. So yeah, we're correcting stuff that should have been corrected a long time ago. We've effectively been running the markets and the economy off just slapping band-aids on band-aids on band-aids. And what we're doing now is we're ripping all the band-aids off. We're going in to seeing what the underlying problem is and trying to fix some of that at least. And I think overall, right, my personal opinion here, I think Donald Trump and his administration has been largely effective at what they're trying to do. They're sorting out some of the stuff that has been glossed over for a hot minute. You could argue that some of the tariff as leverage negotiations is a bit overdone. And I would agree that, yeah, it looks like the big ask and it shows as much. But at the same time, like the results are already coming in. There's a good bit of winning going all around. It doesn't happen monetarily, but if you look at the effects of what they're doing with other countries and getting other countries to fall in line, that is working for sure. So yeah, there is going to be some short-term bearishness, shall we say. But overall, though, these are things that we've talked about for, over a decade at this point that should have been happening, and they're just finally getting done. So yeah, will there be some short-term downside? Oh, for sure. That's how it happens, because markets like stability. What we're getting right now is a shakeup, which is notably not stability, and that's okay. I mean, shoot, as long as like the S&P doesn't hit like 200 or something, we'll be okay. But at the same time, though, I understand that there are people out there on fixed incomes living off Social Security and retirements, that any sort of downturn in the economy overall is going to affect your payouts as you're starting to draw on those retirements. But at the same time, though, this is not permanent. This is not forever. This is not going to last for eternity. There will be upside. The S&P will get back to returning 8-10%, even upwards of that over on the year over year. So it's like, no, the world is not crashing. We're just trying to reconfigure how things are going here.
Yeah. I think I'm sure you've heard of this, Z, right? There's discussion of, I know Donald Trump's trying to do X, Y, and Z, but how effective really are they going to be? Because one administration is not, so the 4 years that you're going to spend in this, and this is your final term, right? Like you can't run for another term.
As much as people want to shout on Twitter about how Donald Trump is going to be the God Emperor forever, no, he's termed out after this. Like he's not even up for re-election. Like
exactly.
Okay,
but they're like, well, okay, a lot of this stuff is good, but 4 years is just not enough time to like get the fruits out of that labor. I think he knows that, but I think the big picture here is that, like we mentioned earlier, he's laying the groundwork. Because take this into consideration, right? Here's the way that I'm thinking about it, is that, look, we might experience a little bit of pain in the short term, right? We have a pain in the markets, a downturn, right? We might not get exactly the bull market that we wish for in 2025. But think of it this way. What if at the very tail end of his administration, that's when all of the benefits start to appear? And so everything, like the market downturn and the tariffs and all this stuff during the first year of his second administration is forgotten, and then suddenly the entire United States remembers him fondly as like he gives us his swan song. and you inevitably set up the next administration to stay red, right? To stay Republican. And ideally, JD Vance is going to take up that mantle, and then he continues, right? So even though Donald Trump is not the one overseeing how these policies develop, his second in command guy, JD Vance, is going to take up the mantle, right? And that's how we can push those things forward, right? Even if Donald Trump is no longer in the White House. So like, at least that's a positive spin that I've kind of placed on it.
No, that's a very positive spin. And to go back to your analogy, what you were talking about, which is like China thinks in 100-year terms and chunks, like, yeah, the 4-year election cycle, that's very, very quick in comparison. If Donald Trump sets up things now very well, we could absolutely see benefits into the future. And as it stands right now, I do believe that JD Vance is currently the front runner for the next election cycle, largely because I think the Republican side of the House, I think the old school Republicanism is dying, and I think more of the
yeah.
Yeah, look, I've said it in the past to people, which is that it felt like previously to identify as a Republican is to identify as a loser, because you're always just compromising and just never actually pushing the ball forward.
No backbone.
But exactly. What we're seeing here is people actually willing to do things that other people were like, oh, no, this is going to upturn the apple cart. It's going to throw everything into a spiral. It's like, no, do what you said you were going to do. Don't just be controlled opposition. Yeah. So on the Republican side of the House, yeah, I think JD Vance is the front runner right now. He's great on camera. He understands all the philosophical, logical arguments and is doing very well in the media space that exists currently. And then on top of that, on the Democratic side of the aisle, I just don't think that I think they're really struggling for leadership right now. A lot of what we're seeing, exactly, a lot of what we're seeing in the mainstream media and overall in the press is that they're kind of confused about what direction to go. And instead of actually trying to progress ideas and movements forward, they're just trying to react to Donald Trump and double down on some of the stuff that's previously failed. Yeah. So an example of this is what we saw this last week with the continuing resolution battle, which is that Chuck Schumer was willing to fight and keep the government shut down, even though they were able to pass the continuing resolution through reconciliation, but instead he was trying to actually get the Democrats to filibuster. So the difference here is that through the reconciliation process, you only need a slim majority, aka 50, like a tied 50-50 plus the vice president to get it over that hump. But if you go to filibustering, what you end up with is you need a 60 vote count to actually close a filibuster and move towards movement. So if you do that, what ends up happening is that instead Chuck Schumer and the Democrats are the ones holding up the bill. And then in the press, they're like, well, they're the ones doing it, so we got to kind of put the blame on them. So he wised up and actually accepted it and just moved forward with the presentation going on, or what the proposal was, and allowed that to happen, as opposed to continuing to try to fight and just look like a bit of a loser in the process because he was the one ultimately holding it up. So when it comes to that, I mean, like, yeah, the 4-year election cycle, it's pretty short. But at the same time, though, you got to make moves. And what we're seeing right now is moves. Moves make waves, and the waves are not great for the markets because, again, they like stability. But overall, yeah, I think we're in a very good place. And I know this is me putting on the legal nerd cap, but what I see coming out of this administration is I think we're going to get some Supreme Court rulings on the true powers inside of the government. And we're going to get some actual case law talking about what is the effective powers of the government, powers of the executive branch, powers of the legislature, and what the executive can do to run the government overall. Because the way that this was proposed and written in law is that Congress and legislation creates the structure. The president runs the administration and all the structures underneath of it. There is no fourth branch of government, which is the bureaucratic state, which is all the federal agencies operating independently and doing whatever the hell they want. It's like, no. We have a body to propose things, we have a body to run things, and we have a third body to determine whether or not these things are constitutional or not. And I think that these next 4 years, we're going to start to see some actual cases come before the Supreme Court to really establish the boundaries and the guidelines about where these powers fall and what they're able and not able to do. That's the stuff that I'm looking forward to, and I think there's a very, very, very good chance we're going to start to see some actual rulings on it. Yeah. Not just theoreticals and philosophical talk about what could happen or what could possibly work or what the The powers are no. You're going to get a definitive ruling on how things work, and I think that's one of the best things that we're going to get out of this. But again, though, that's Uncle Z here talking from personal opinion.
I mean, I share your personal opinion, right? I am a fan of putting the onus of responsibility back into our lawmakers, as opposed to them just passing off the buck to these, like you said, independent agencies, right? Like, we elected you to represent us, and the reason why you're in that position of power is because, like, right, great power, great responsibility. You can't just pass the book to somebody else. So yes, I'm certainly looking forward to the very same things that you are, right? And it's funny that you mentioned earlier about the Democrats are really having a difficult time finding their footing, as opposed to, like, how do they pivot into new leadership? The Republicans not so long ago were in that very same position, and they couldn't get a win to save their lives until Donald Trump came in. So maybe now this is me also being very hopeful, is that when the Democrats pivot, they finally pivot into somebody who's a little bit more level-headed, right?
I would agree. And by the way,
that might be too hopeful, though. I don't know how you, like, the Democrats have dug their feet so deep into the culture war side of things, and that's a lot of their constituents. Like, can you walk that back? Is he like, can you walk it back?
I don't think you can walk it back. You can only progress forward. And not to be too macabre with it, but, like, the older voting demographic is going to age out and start dying at some point. I know Social Security says that there's over, like, 3 million people over 160 years old, but if you look at the actual data and the people submitting ballots, yeah, things are going to change eventually. You can't just keep holding on to this 1970s, 80s Cold War mentality of everything going on. The torch is going to have to get passed at some point, and I don't think things are going to get walked back. They're only going to progress into something new. They can change direction for sure, but it only goes forward at this point. And then it just it's based on what the new voting bloc values as important.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, for the folks that were wondering, if you look up unitary executive theory, I believe that is the political philosophy, or political theory, talking about how the executive is the ultimate and sole administrator of the entire executive branch, or federal government, if you will. And that's the thing that we are talking about seeing come into fruition here in the court soon, which is, like, is Donald Trump actually able to fire these people? Is he actually in control of these agencies? If not, then who? You got to answer the question one way. If it's not the president, then we got to figure out exactly who it is and ensure that those people are actually doing their job.
Yep.
But outside of that, it is about time to talk to the good people out in the audience. We have a good bit of super chats. Mrs. Producer is hitting me up saying, "Hey, get to these. We got a handful stacking up." So very, very happy to say hello to all the people out in the audience. I know this is more of a high level, less actual, like, tactics on the ground, making your moves kind of thing, but there are still moves to be made. Me personally, I've been enjoying playing with the Sonic Network, and in particular the Shadow decks over there. There's some really good some good farms over there. I'll say that much. I've been making some good moves over there and enjoying them greatly. But outside of that, yeah, let's hit some super chats. So, Mrs. Producer, if you do not mind. Up first, we got Large. He says, "What's up, D-Gens? Good to see my man. I saw you. You gave me a bless you in the chat earlier. Thank you very much for that. Apologies. My microphone discipline has not been as good tonight. I recently found out that my local area has juniper as what they filled in as, like, the filler plant, and the pollen and the flower on it actually has little, like, thorns on the pollen. So when they get inside your sinuses and stuff, they hook into it and they stay there for a while. So it's rough.
Damn.
But I know it's brutal. I apologize for everyone that's been hearing me sneeze all stream, but y'all are the best, and we thank you the most for it. All right, up next we got Jemmy. She says, "Happy Sunday, D-Gens. Happy Sunday to you as well. Great to see you. Thanks for stopping in on the Friday Book Club show, by the way. Great to see you for that one. And I know that was a bit of a shorter show, but it was a good one. We had Dr. Chen stop by in the flesh with Will. That was great to have him come on for a cameo for a little bit. And then after that, we had our very own Nate the Ascending Man and a good friend of the channel, Mr. Angie Twinkie. They did a rerun of a Pulse Chain tour, or a Pulse 369 conference, excuse me. They did a panel on Friday night. That was fantastic. It was one of the best streams to show people for getting into crypto. They covered some really great topics. I would highly recommend go checking it out. It's over on the Pulse 369 YouTube channel. It's not on Discourse Syndicate. You got to go to the new channel. We're trying to drive traffic over there for everything conference related. All right, up next we got Just Live. He says, "Welcome to Costco. I love you." Yes,
Love
welcome
Costco,
to DRT. Welcome DRT. We love you as well. Crypto Chronic coming in saying, "What's poppin', DJ Bros? As always, good to see you. Good to see you as well, sir. I was given a beautiful drink during the stream with a nice little lime in it, so I'm enjoying that myself. I hope you guys are all having a beautiful Sunday, relaxing, chilling, having a great time. Thank you so much for spending time with us. I mean, this is relaxing and a good chill time for us as well."
Yeah. Yeah, man, this ain't really work for us no more. At least I don't think so. I have a lot of fun when I'm doing these streams. I have a lot of fun when I stream in the morning. So
Absolutely. Dude, streaming it's a lot more fun than I originally thought it was going to be. Originally, I was very stressed out by it and like trying to put on a good show, but then I kind of learned as long as you're having fun, having a good conversation, good flow, talking about good topics, that's where it's really at.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right. Up next, good friend 54 Cent, aka Centurion 54S.
That's our DM.
What's up, D-Gens? Good to see you, sir. Happy Sunday to you. And we got another good friend. He was also on the show on Friday with Twinkie and Nate. Mr. Fast Abdul, Pulse Jitsu with Fast Abdul, if you will, the creator of the 2 Fucks protocol. He says, "I see D-Gens. We see you as well, good sir. Good to see you." Another one of those people from the gang putting on everything going on with the conference and Discourse Syndicate. We got a wild SJ. She says, "She appears." That is her tagline. Good to see you, SJ. Happy Sunday to you as well. And good buddy of ours, Sam Stevenson, coming in.
Sam?
Will's gone, but his brother was filling in. He says, "Like the video. Much appreciated, sir." Yes, people, we do appreciate every time you do the YouTube pleasantries and give us the shout outs, give us the like, subscribe. Oh, Will's coming in there with the like smash button too. Coming in at the last minute. We see you, buddy.
Yeah. Will actually has another brother. I didn't know. He told me, I found out yesterday that he has another brother.
There you go. Multi brother man right there. It's three boys in the family minimum. We're not gonna try to dox the rest of Will's family too much, but 3 boys at least. There you go. All right, we're coming to the close of the show here. Mr. Agent J, any final thoughts? Anything you're looking forward to this week?
I am looking forward to the Fed meeting. I think so. I'm looking forward to the Fed meeting because I think because we got some really freaking nice. Oh shit, we just got a super chat. Let's do super chat first.
There you go. We have 200,000 Indian rupees, I believe. A word from our sponsor, not our sponsor, but Fast Abdul sponsor. He says, ink printer is launching on Tuesday. Get your ink bags ready. That's right. Fast Abdul has been working to create a protocol talking about a incentive token printer. Effectively, I believe it's it's similar to the Flex protocol and the liquid loans to do pretty much create an incentive token backed stablecoin. Mr. Fast Abdul, please correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, much appreciated, good sir. Always appreciate the rupees. Thankfully, he's not throwing dong around on this stream.
That's why I like Abdul, man, because look,
he gets creative with it.
We've seen so many creators in Pulse Chain come and go. They have their time in the sun, and then they just fucking dip. Abdul has been here for since I met him. He's been creating. He's been streaming. He's been he's been developing for 2 Fucks, Bribery, and now this the ink printer, right? It's like he's been here through the highs and the lows. So thank you, Abdul. Looking forward to what else you build out throughout the rest of this bull market. So always good to see you, my friend. Always good to see you.
For sure. Our very own Will Stevenson coming in clutch with the question there. Liquidity fork. Yes, that is a lending protocol that is being forked now for incentive tokens. So even more support for Pulse Chain and all the RH tokens over there.
Yep. Agreed. But yeah, as far as what I'm looking forward to, because we got super good news on the CPI, maybe we get something really hopeful coming out of the Fed. Maybe we get something really good from the summary of economic projections. And man, I guarantee you, if they even say the word, you know what? I know we said 2, but we're gonna upwards revise again to maybe 3+. that's going to send us. So a lot of things that can happen in the span of a week, as we've seen over the past few. But yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. There's a project that I'll send you guys a picture later. The new project that I'm working on, that I'm very excited. So that's probably going to take up a lot of my time during the week. But other than that, man, you're gonna catch me and the rest of the gang over at DRT and the Telegram channel, 7:45 a.m. tomorrow, MSC, and we will be streaming as always. If something crazy happens overnight, you will get the first update in the Telegram. So that's what I'm looking forward to. How about you, Z?
Definitely. Jay, where can the folks find you?
Oh, yeah. You could find me on Instagram or on X. Instagram is agent_J Schroth. X is _P90 Hex. But to be quite honest, you could find me. I spend most of my time in the Telegram. So like the damn video, comment, subscribe, scan the QR code, jump into Telegram. Thank you for joining us this wonderful evening, because we know that time is your most valuable asset. And we do appreciate that you spend some of that time here with us. Until next time, Z, take us out, man.
Will do. I got to say, I think I'm right there with Jay with what I'm looking forward to this week. I do believe that the announcement of the meeting is largely baked in at this point. I'm not expecting a rate cut. However, I am very much looking forward to the market projections outlook that the Fed is going to post. Every other meeting, they do post that nice little PDF document talking about all their projections, how they change, and they actually give us the numbers of their future outlook. We had one in January. Oh, sorry, we're not going to get one this time because we had one in January, didn't we?
No, sir.
Yeah,
it comes in once every quarter. So we are getting one this meeting. This is the one for quarter 1.
Excellent. All right, that's what I'm looking forward to. Love me some data, and I'm very much looking forward to it. Outside of that, folks, yeah, get in the Telegram if you're not already in there. That is where Jay does all the emergency streams. That is where you can catch any of us. You can, seriously, tag us in any of your posts, any of your questions. We'll try to get to them as fast as we possibly can. And there's a lot of good conversation that goes on in there, and some good memes, maybe a little D&D, maybe a little anime, some memes, who knows? But that's where all that stuff is located. Folks, you can find me on Twitter, aka X, at ZenithDI, same on Instagram. Outside of that, though, we're going to be back for our Wednesday show, 8 p.m. Eastern time, like all of our shows here. We got book club coming up on Friday, and we'll be back next week, same time as always, for the flagship show, talking about all the news going on and any other stuff happening. Outside of that, folks, Mrs. Producer, get your trigger finger ready. Ladies and gentlemen, like Agent J just said, we know that time is the most valuable asset, so we want to thank you every time you spend it here with us. You guys are all the best. We love you very much, and thank you very much for joining us tonight. Until we catch you guys next time, I hope that everyone out there remembers to degen responsibly.